living La Vida low carb. This show is changing lives. We talking about your diet, trying to get you feeling right. Cut up them avocados, fry some eggs, time to explore the longest running health podcast, hosted by Jimmy Moore. Time to give up the crappy garbage. We're getting into ketosis. Every day is a new step to your goal. Yeah, you're getting closer, motivated and focused. Don't stop, just go. Time to get inspiration from the Living La Vida Low Carb Show. Hey, the livinglowcarbshow.com.
Hey, how are you, Jimmy? How's it going?
I'm so good, man. So guys, that right there is Rafael Carrion. He is all lifts matter with a couple of underscores in between those words. All underscore lifts underscore matter. And by the way, I was recalling how we met the other day, and I remember where I was. My ex-wife was at a clinic getting something done, and you sent me a message or something through DM that said, hey, my cholesterol numbers are off. I know you understand this. Can you help me? And I was like, dude, just call me. And I gave you my phone number, and I chatted outside that clinic, and we talked it all up. And I think I acquiesced your fears.
Yeah, at the beginning, that was when I started doing the keto. So I was not familiar with the result that I should be seeing on those tests. And then, like, typically, like everyone who sees those numbers high, I started like wondering if that's something that should be taken care of or is something wrong. But in reality, it was what it was expected. And then the other numbers confirmed that that was actually a good result, not the other way around. And you helped me to understand that. And ever since, I've just been watching them get better and better. And here I am.
Yeah, dude, I remember that call very vividly because, like, you're a pretty buff built guy. Anybody that looks at your pictures online, let me see if I can find a sexy picture of Mr.
Blush now.
Oh, but the point is, this is the one I posted in the promo. So the point is, you're not from the outside unhealthy in any way. And so for you to be concerned about cholesterol, it was kind of interesting to me as somebody that's been at this for a very long time, Rafael. You know, what gets people upset when it comes to their health. And we're going to talk about something here today with the main topic of balancing your hormones that I think is another thing that I think can kind of get people's ires. So thank you for being here, by the way. Let's back up. Tell us your story, how you got into, obviously you're very much into fitness. You got the body for it, but you got into nutrition and kind of marrying those concepts together. Tell us your story.
Yeah, well, everything started about 7 years ago. So I was just really not paying attention to anything that I was eating, and for sure not linking anything that I was feeling with that, right? And then all of a sudden my family came. I remember that was in December. We spent like a couple of weeks together eating out, drinking, so just going like on the festivities mood. And when they left, my pants won't fit. So that was the kicker for me to start, okay, I need to do something, and this is not the shape that I was used to, and something is wrong with me because I didn't gain weight that fast before. So I started looking into exercising, and then hired a coach. Then the coach was like also on the learning stage, so it was a point where it couldn't help me anymore. And at that point I started thinking, well, I should learn this myself. It looks like it's something important that I should know, like a good tool to have.
Yeah.
So that's when I started taking the classes for nutrition certification. And then after that, I got a bodybuilding certification too. And then that started applying it on me, and close friends that reach out to me when they start seeing the results. And ever since, I've been just reading every single book that crossed my mind, and every single article, study that I can get my hands off. And it's been quite a ride, I will say. I have tried different diets, like the typical bodybuilding diet, you know, a bunch of rice and just like chicken breast and broccoli. I did a bodybuilding show across these years, and it was a big change because, like I said, I was never into fitness or sports. And when I started doing this, it became who I am now. For a little while, I was doing a side business coaching, fitness coaching for both exercise and nutrition. But I have like a 9 to 5 that I really like to. So now I keep that as my main activity, and I still help some people that reach out to me and wants to help. But I will say through all that journey, what really made the click and change was when I started lowering my carbs and I started doing intermittent fasting. that's when I saw changes on how I felt.
Yes.
On my energy levels, especially. I remember I had a job where I had to drive almost an hour each way, early in the morning and in the afternoon. And I was little afraid every morning because I felt like anytime I could fall asleep while driving. I even remember like stopping on the traffic lights and kind of closing my eyes to rest. And it was a scary feeling.
Yeah.
And then when I started changing my diet and doing this intermittent fasting along with low carbs, I felt that energy came back. I didn't feel that drowsy in the mornings. I felt more energized throughout the day. My workouts definitely improved. And after a few months, I saw like a huge change on my body composition as well. By then, I had probably 3 years going to the gym, and I was kind of frustrated because I didn't see the results that were relatable to the amount of work that I was putting, right?
Yeah.
But then when that happened, that was like I said, a click, and everything just changed from there on. The most important part, will say, they were my energy levels, like I said, and not just in the morning, but throughout the day. I had eczema that was quite bad on my legs and on my hips as well, and that literally disappeared. And the last one I will say was, along with those two, it was the performance at the gym as well. It was good, but I was not really strong. Like I felt like I could have done more, but I couldn't. I just kind of plateaued there, right? Now, when that happened, when the eczema disappeared and my energy levels changed, that's when I figured, okay, well, this is my diet. Something I was doing before was keeping me on that same mood and same like condition of my body that was reflecting on those issues, right? And then it made me realize, and that's how I started writing about how there is a huge disconnect between we as a society and the food that we put in.
Yes.
It's generally known, and then we always put a calorie number, and we think it's just a calorie. Okay, you're eating too many calories, or you're just eating too little calories. Eat more. And yeah, that could be important in some contexts. Like if you're a bodybuilder and you want to increase muscle mass, yeah, you increase your calories. But if you're regular Joe, that doesn't really. It's not the starting point. That's what I'm trying to say.
Right.
When you make changes like that and change your diet, reduce your processed foods and reduce your sugars and adjust to like natural foods, then that's when you make the connection and start feeling better and pointing those improvements to what you're eating. Now it's so clear to me, and I was surprised that in like 30 years into my life, it never occurred to me, right?
Well, look, Rafael, look how we have been, and I'm just going to say this word purposefully, indoctrinated in the calorie hypothesis. Everybody thinks calories kind of hung the moon, but it's still called the calorie hypothesis. They've never made that into something that's factual, that's absolute. It never has been. And every study that looks at calories says it's an abysmal failure without also looking at the quality of the calories, and to the topic we're talking about today, the impact on hormones that specific calories coming from mostly carbohydrates have versus the calories that come from kind of a fat and protein and minimal carbohydrate calories. And so why isn't that emphasized? Why do you think?
Well, we can get into that conversation of the big brother trying to control the speech and how much money there is behind that. So go back to follow the money type of deal. And it's clear. It's like, what tools do we have as citizens in this country to control ourselves, to monitor ourselves, what's happening inside us? Everything goes through either an insurance or a practitioner. And someone who might not know as much as nutrition as you or I might know, but we have to trust them because that's what the system is designed to. And that's what's going to eventually bring some revenue for the whole system again, right? So when you're saying that, why it's not being emphasized, it's not lack of information, because the information is out there. I mean, we can always reach out to it. It's actually at the point that it's maybe too much information now. that it overwhelms people, but it's the fact that we don't have the tools to control it ourselves. That's been taken from us.
Well, and here's what's happening, Rafael. Patients are going to see doctors. Doctors put them on drugs. They get tired of the drugs. They're not really getting better. They're getting worse and worse. They have to go on higher and higher doses of the medication they went on that they didn't really need to go on to begin with, because if lifestyle change had been implemented, it would have healed itself. But then they're not getting that information. But then they listen to podcasts like mine and other people, and they start learning about the hormonal effects of food. And then they start eating this way, but they're still taking the drugs that were supposed to help with this. They start feeling bad. They blame it on the diet and they give it all up. So you see, it's how this is so intricately tied that there's two different worlds happening. You've got the medical world that says, here's how you solve it, pill, surgery, whatever. And then you have the natural health world that says, hey, here's diet, here's sleep, here's exercise, here's other lifestyle factors. Do those things, but they're not talking to each other. Yeah. They're two separate entities. And this is what causes the confusion for people, because they think health only comes in a white coat in a medical.
And I have a very close example. My mom, she's diabetic. And I tried to explain her, she's 86, so she won't hear me that much anymore, but she wants to continue doing what she's been doing, right? She's programmed to continue doing this. And she's always on medications, and she's always watching what she's eating, watching with air quotes, right? And then I talked to her one day, like, well, what pills are you taking? And then she was like, well, I take these pills to lower my sugar levels. And if that happens and goes too low, I take this other one. And that, since that one has consequences on her, she needs to take other stuff to counteract that, right? And I was like, well, when do you glucose goes up? When does that happen? And she's like, well, anytime that I eat pasta or eat rice or eat a piece of cake. Well, why don't you just stop eating that and change it for something different? Well, then the sugar will go too low. And it was like, yes, because you're taking the pill. So why don't you just remove the carbohydrates from there and reduce the amount of the pills that you're taking, or remove the pill altogether? And it doesn't process.
Doctor doesn't encourage that, Rafael. And that's the thing. When you go to see your doctor and you say, hey, I want to try this keto thing, I want to try lowering carbs, blah, blah, blah. It's a little bit of a disconnect, because they're like, well, you still need to take your medication. But then if you keep taking the same levels of even metformin, which is a pretty good drug, but especially those that are like injecting themselves with insulin, and then suddenly you go low carb, you don't need that insulin or as much of it anymore, but doctors don't know how to kind of monitor that in real time with a ketogenic diet, which is why so many keto doctors go see somebody that knows about the ketogenic diet and help titrate you off of these things while you're on it. Because daily, I remember Dr. Westman, my co-author on the Clarity books, he said that, he always tells his diabetic patients when he goes, puts them on 20 grams of carbs, he's like, come see me daily. Here's my phone number. Call, text me. If you start to have issues, and we can adjust medication so that you don't go into hypoglycemia.
Yeah, and there is another thing, right? I try myself. I know you have to, and most of the fitness community have access to, or some sort of access to, the continuous glucose monitors.
Yes.
So you can see everything that's happening to you by the minute, right? So if you're eating this type of carbohydrates or this amount of carbohydrates, you can see what effect it has on you. And again, there is a lot of red tape. You cannot get it over the counter, versus you can get the ones that you can pinch your finger, which to me doesn't make any sense. Oh yeah, you can get one that you can pinch your finger every single time you want to measure, but not the one that you put in here once a month and you're done with it, right?
There.
Yeah, so we need to give people two things combined. We give you the information and we give you the tools. Now it's up to them to try them.
Keto can be hard. Tabulating, measuring, baking, taking 3 months to perfect one recipe, and to mixed reviews.
Did something die in here? Oh, I think it moved.
And by that point, you give up your diet, find a dark corner, and stuff yourself with sugar, carbs, and regret.
This, isn't what it looks like.
Well, this is where Keto Chow saves the day. The easiest, tastiest, ketoist meal replacement on the market.
It's like ice cream melted in my mouth.
Yes, but melted ice cream with all the protein, nutrients, vitamins, and electrolytes your body needs.
Oh, that's cool.
And with 3 starter kits, each with restaurant tips, keto food guides, and a ton of flavors to try, your taste buds and your waistline will thank you.
Thank you.
So grab your starter kit today at jimmylovesketochow.com.
It's so easy.
Keto Chow. Make keto easy.
Well, and something else that is new, Rafael, is people realizing that the doctor doesn't have all the answers in your health. And quite frankly, nor should they. Like, the #1 advocate for you in your health is you. Like, you're not the one grabbing control of all the information and making the best decisions for you. Not doing it right. Maybe the old school way of my mom and dad's, our parents' generation, they were so trusting of the doctor. Yeah. My generation and younger, not as much as the older generation. And so, but we've always had this inherent trust that they knew everything about health, including nutrition, and we're coming to learn they don't really know as much as we think.
Yeah, that's correct. And well, and that's just one piece of the whole puzzle, right? So the main topic that we're discussing today is that the controlling of how important it is to control hormone levels, and insulin is one of them.
Yes, the master.
So yeah, we have and they all work with each other. So it's not like an isolated thing that insulin is doing and nothing else related in your body. It's actually a whole system.
Yes.
And on my experience, so what I've seen is, all right, so we reduce carbs and people will think, well, you need the sugar, right? You need that energy. Well, it's going to be there. Don't worry. Your body will produce it. And I have used that continuous glucose monitor, the CGMs, and you can see that I wasn't even doing a 3-day fast, which I'll tell you later about the results that I saw on myself and other people that I have coached through it. And you will see that you're not eating anything, not carbs, literally not a single piece of food coming into your mouth for 3 days, and you go work out and you have that, you will see your glucose spiking.
Yep.
Because your body will produce it. They have enough resources inside to produce and keep the balance of the hormones that it needs.
That blows people's mind, Rafael. I've done 21-day fasts, and like day 14, even just normal, just waking up when you have insulin resistance and you wake up, you might pop a 120 something. And you haven't had food in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And we're just like, how? But what you don't realize, there's so many metabolic processes that keep you alive, that make your body function. And as you're healing, as you're mobilizing stored body fat, there's so many ways the body gets what it needs to do what it does to keep you alive. This is why you can go months on end without eating any food. I think the world record was something like 380 something days in a row. Now that boy was big. He was like 700 pounds when he started. And the doctor was desperate to get him off of his diabetes medication. And he lost a lot of weight doing that. But not recommended for most. But then like water, you need to have it, a few days or you'll die. And so, so it's amazing the things that we believe, kind of because we just heard about them rather than kind of science. It's like, well, we need to eat 6 square meals, like small meals all throughout the day, spread throughout 6 to 8 meals. And it's like, where did that come from? It came from the dietitians that said, well, if you want to balance your hormones and you want to lower your blood sugar and keep it steady throughout the day, let's feed it, rather than feed it, let your body relax, give your pancreas a break so that the insulin can recover, and then maybe a second meal. But you really don't need more than that.
Yeah. And it's not just that. Since I'm in this world of the bodybuilding community, I see that they are also influencers on this type of diet, because they're eating so low fat diets and so high carb diets that they need to eat a lot of food to achieve the amount of calories they need to sustain that, right? And the only way to do that is eating every 3 hours. So that's another thing. So people will think, well, if that guy has that great body and he eats three meals every 3 hours, I'll do the same thing, right? But wait, hold on. Why is he eating and how is he using that? Without getting into how unhealthy he might be in the inside, right? Just looking at the general things that you can see from the outside.
Well,
go ahead.
In the bodybuilding world, it's so funny because you got these bras out there that say, well, come through my program and you'll look like me. And I hate that, Rafael. If I can say that out loud, I can. It's my show. I hate that because it kind of gives the wrong impression that all it takes is diet and working out a certain way and blah, 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 and you look that way. No, there's a lot of genetic components. Like you said, 7 years ago, you really weren't into fitness and diet at all, and now you are, and look at your body, but you probably had some genetics that maybe helped with that, along with the hard work. I'm not trying to discount the hard work that goes into making your body look that way, but it just seems to me there's a lot of this bro science that says, well, just do exactly what I did and you'll look exactly like me. I will never have a six-pack. It's just not going to happen. Like at this age, at this point in my life, the way I've damaged my body, the insulin resistance, it would take a monumental effort to get even close to that. And I'm okay with that, by the way. Everybody has to pursue, guys, a six-pack. I know some girls have them too, but most guys want it. Girls just want to be toned and look good. But yeah, that kind of thing just irks me, man.
But yeah, again, you're right. It's what people see from the outside. The underlying variables that they don't see are playing a role. You mentioned one, genetics. The other one is hormonal, like variances in that,
yes.
that person. So first of all, they might be taking something, or they might have a really good hormonal system. And that goes back to the same conversation. So insulin is one of them, right? So they actually leverage insulin usage to build the bodies they have.
Yes.
At the expense of something else. That's also causing problems down the line that they might catch up later. Like I felt it. I was under that diet. My body changed dramatically when I was doing the show, eating the bro diet that you mentioned. But I felt tired. My testosterone were like in the floor. And I was literally, hormonally speaking, I was a female. Because they were so low that I couldn't, I mean, it was not sustainable. Your body goes into too much stress that there's nothing else matters but fight that stress. And that comes where the cortisol enters the equation. So another thing that I noticed while measuring my insulin level or my glucose levels, hence the insulin, is how stress affects that too. So we know now from many studies that if you have high cortisol levels, you're going to be less likely to burn fat because it's a process that goes hand to hand, right? And that right now in society, we have a continuous stress environment. We live constantly on a fight and flight stage. So either for work, for traffic, for all the commitments we have. Like I have kids, I need to be running every single day against the clock in a rush all day long. And if we don't have a bend for that, there you go. That's my mom, my sister, and my kids. Yes. So it's a very hard situation for the regular Joe to fight because they don't know that stress is actually, we live in a society that empowers that give you, encourages to be in that. You gotta be the hustle. You gotta keep working. That sleeping is for losers. You gotta wake up at 4 a.m. and continue working until you can't anymore. That is just raising our cortisol level to a point that we cannot fight it back.
And that is a uniquely American thing, by the way, you guys. In Europe, they've got time off the floor where they take vacations, very much so. We don't really have it as a priority, and American culture really pushes that hard work ethic, and you never take a day off, and you go, 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 go all the time. I think that's really messed us up, not just cortisol, but a lot of things that directly impact all of your hormones.
Yeah, truly does. Yeah, I read about that they are kind of, by law, there's like 20 some days or something like that. I might be wrong, completely wrong here, but.
And in South America, Chile, I did a mission trip there many years ago when I was in college, many years ago. And I remember in the middle of the day, they would all just come home 2 o'clock in the afternoon. All the kids, all the parents, everybody would just come home from work, come home from school, and they would have this thing called once. And they would sit down at this table full of all these like treats and things, and they would sit around the table eating the treats, asking about how your day's going. And it would be this 3-hour block. Then they would go back to work, go back to school, and then come home. Like, I think that's beautiful to kind of put a pause in the middle of the day.
Yeah.
imagine culturally in America if everything shut down from like 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock every day, and that it made you come home and be with your family and talk about what's going on? How much lower could cortisol be? How much better could our lives be? That always stuck with me.
Yeah, and it's true. I see it on my kids. I mean, that was one of the things that I want to talk to you about today, because not just we as an adults don't know what to do, is that we're transferring that to the kids as well. I see that on my 11 years old. So she spends 8 hours and a half actually at school every day. And she gets back home and has to spend about 1 hour and 30 minutes or 2 hours doing homework. So by the time she goes to bed, it's 10. And she have to wake up at 6. So she already is sleeping 8 hours when she should be sleeping more. She's in full grown mode right now. And not just that, but the stress that I see on her, like she's not sad, but I guess, yeah, sad in some way, that she has to go through all of that. Like it was a big change from elementary to what's now. And so we're creating a new society that's coming in. We're not teaching them that proper rest period, relax, lower your levels of cortisol, because they don't even know what it is. And well, imagine talking to a kid about, and I do, but most people don't, about meditation, right? So how if you feel stressed, sit down, breathe, like lower your hormones, calm down. Yeah. I try to tell my kids all the time, the things that I do might not work for them, but try them. Because it might help you, like even the ice bath. You're doing that now. You're doing that challenge at this point. And I did it. My daughter tried. She was like, well, I like the feeling when you get in. It's cold, but I hate the pain after. Okay, well, don't do it anymore. Well, I never forced it again. Turns out that a couple of years ago, she started doing the cold bath, like the shower, cold shower, by herself. I didn't even push her again. So I showed her the tool, explained what it was good, and then she started using it. Now, she started understanding, okay, if I'm stressed, my cortisol is going up. That's going to change my mood. She's going to change the way I see the world. It's going to change the way I see the challenges that I need to face. And eventually, that's going to be also affecting the rest of your hormones. It's going to be increasing your insulin. It's going to be changing your progesterone. So it's going to be affecting the whole system there. And the sooner they see that, the better it will be for them in the future as far as making decisions and taking approaches to face life.
Real Good Foods is one of the fastest growing frozen food companies in the U.S. Everything they make is nutrient dense, high in protein, low in carbs, and made from real food ingredients. They make food for every occasion: breakfast sandwiches, poppers, enchiladas, entrees, and pizza. So whether you're on a keto diet, trying to cut back on your carbs, or just trying to eat healthier, they make super convenient and tasty options. RealGoodFoods.com and at Real Good Foods on social media.
Look, I think your approach is so good because you're not only talking to them about these things, you're living them. They watch you, so they see what daddy's doing. That's really curious. Your 11-year-old's very interested in the ice bath concept. I got to go, just got back from the biohacking conference, Dave Asprey's conference in Orlando, and he had the Morozco Forge, this really nice ice tank thing. I've got one on order, but it's still not here yet. So I remember popping in that thing at the conference. It was 35 degrees, controlled temperature. And I thought, okay, this will be nothing. And because I do ice baths here for an hour at home all the time. Love them. I get in there and they're like, well, you might only want to do it for like 1 or 2 minutes because it'll be too much. And of course, I get in there and I'm already down low, got my vagus nerve below the water. And they're like, you do ice baths already, don't you? I said, yeah, and I love this.
Yeah, the feeling is amazing.
How long can you go? I'm like, as long as you'll let me. I was in there like 6 minutes. And they were like, well, we have people waiting to get in. And it was like I was enjoying it so much. But yeah, and I know that's a hormonal issue thing too, that I tend to run a little bit hotter. And I'm sure that as I continue down like this journey that I'm on with the sabbatical, that I will lose weight. And maybe there will be a switch where I won't be as hot, and maybe the cold baths will be a little more. But yeah, I mean, it's that initial shock when you get in, but then yeah, after a while you just kind of go, this is nice.
Yeah, it won't hurt more than what it hurts at the beginning, and your body will adapt to it. But then it's just for how long your body can keep up that temperature. And I was listening to Dave Asprey not long ago, and he was talking about that one of the ways that he likes to make, well, this is a different conversation, but new mitochondria and make it stronger is to shock the body with cold.
Yes.
Either showers or environment. That way your body have to heat up, and any mitochondria that cannot keep up with that, it will actually be eaten out. It will be out, and then new one will come in.
And look, ancestrally, they would have popped into the snow or some old body of water, and they would have done this. And in fact, when I went to Italy a couple of years ago on Maria Emmerich's trip, about 2.5 years ago, they have these places where it's like a hot side and then a cold side, and they literally will bounce back and forth between the two to get that very thing you just mentioned, along with balancing hormones. There's just so many good benefits to making your body go to those extremes. We like to stay in a very comfortable room temperature, 72 degrees, control the lights, control the temperature, and that's not at all how we were built to
not at all.
Elements.
Yeah, and if you attach that with the nutrition, definitely we're not setting ourselves up to create a good hormonal balance. I was going to use that as a segue to mention that when I started the keto diet, and that was one of the things that I noticed, is testosterone improved right there, because now I was eating the healthy fats, saturated fats. We need that. So people demonize the fats, thinking that it's going to clog your arteries, it's just going to cause you heart attacks. But what about the hormonal balance? How much good fat do you need for healthy testosterone? My experience is more based on the male side, right? So I'm more familiar with how testosterone gets affected with the fat and the diet. And I experienced myself when I was telling you about that extended fast that I did. The longest I've done is 5 days. And I believe for me, for my purpose and my goals, a 3-day fast is what the range should be. Yeah. And I measure blood work before, blood work after, and I also measure DEXA scan before and after the fast.
Yes.
And what I saw there, and I have the numbers here to not mess it up, it was a big increase in the production of testosterone, or the free testosterone, and the total testosterone. So the numbers went, like, prior to the fast, literally the day I started the fast, and this is a 5-day fast, it went from 590 to 699. So it was 110 increase in testosterone, not eating anything for 5 days. So it resetted my body, had to produce that. And people don't understand maybe why.
Yes.
Because, yes, you are putting yourself under a stress, and your body have to react to fight that back. And the way it does is, I need to survive.
But we also think of stress as a negative thing, and we got to get out of our head. Stress can be negative if it's done to an extent that it's detrimental, but tiny amounts of stress, it's called hormesis, guys. Go look it up. When you put your body under a hormetic stress, like the ice bath, that is a hormetic stress big time. In fact, I threw that at the girl, and she's like, "You're the first person that's ever called it that. That's interesting." Yes, it is that. And it's amazing, because when you do stress your body at a very micro level, it actually does good things. And I think the reason your testosterone went up, I'm just going to hypothesize, is the growth hormone. You get major growth hormone production doing a 3-day fast. You get the autophagy benefits. You get a lot of things happening metabolically. I'm not surprised to see your testosterone. I've never done my testosterone post-fast, but that's a good idea to do it before and after a fast. I will tell you, when I went carnivore 3.5 years ago, I went from about 350, 400, I can't remember the exact number, as my start, to 750 in my testosterone in 6 months of eating carnivore. Mm-hmm. So I became very big fan of carnivore. Yeah,
it makes you feel good. And you mentioned the growth hormone. Yeah, I measure IGF-1 as well, insulin growth factor that mimics a growth hormone.
Yes.
And that one went from 9 to, 22.
Whoa.
So it more than double in a lapse of 5 days.
Wow.
So that correlates with the results that I saw on the DEXA scan. So when I went there, within the 5-day period, I lost 1.6 pounds of fat and maintained the same amount of muscle mass.
Yeah.
So I obviously dehydrated, but then when I got that hydration back, it wasn't just back to the same.
There's a theory why you didn't lose muscle, and it has everything to do with the ketone bodies. And so ketones are muscle sparing. People think you go into ketones and you'll just eat, and if you fast, you'll just eat all your muscles. And it's like, why would the body do that? The body prefers a usable energy source. First is glucose, then it will go for body fat and other sources of fat in the body, long before it would break down muscle. Like muscle would be the very last thing it would touch for an energy source, because it would have to not only catabolize that muscle, then it would have to go through the liver to convert it into glucose to become a form of energy. So it makes no sense that you would lose muscle.
Yeah, correct. And even the people at the DEXA scan place, they were surprised. I was like, hold on, we got to repeat this. And then she asked me to go back a week after that.
Yes. To
see if that was a mistake on the readings. And I went back and same thing. The muscle was still there. The fat was still gone. And I felt like better than ever. And the mental clarity, this is so hard to explain to people, because you never know how it feels until you feel it.
Yeah.
I remember the first time I felt it, I started talking to, that was in a previous job, and I had a great meeting with my boss at the moment. And when I left, I never talked to him that way. And that day was like, everything was just flowing. And then after that, I started paying attention to those cues. Like, okay, how am I feeling when I'm doing fast? How am I feeling when I'm eating fat? Or how am I feeling with the carbs are gone from my day? And then I was able to connect those two. All right, so I feel actually my mind is clear. But this is, again, I haven't been able to explain the mental clarity to someone who has not experienced it. Because it's the way I try, like, imagine that you use something that is menthol on your brain, you wash your hair like that, and it's inside that sparkling, you feel it. Your mind is clear and can think super fast.
Well, and that's the beauty of balancing your hormones. Like, Rafael, I don't think most people even know what normal in their body is supposed to feel like, because they're so used to some hormone being off, which then throws them all off, and they don't know what normal feels like. This is why when people go on a ketogenic diet, a carnivore, a fitness journey, and they suddenly feel just a little taste of what that normal is, they go, whoa, why did I put up with all of that subnormal for so many years, suboptimal in my health? And you do. There's so many people walking around right now and don't know how good they could feel if they just made slight little changes to balance those hormones.
Yeah. And I want to tell people also that, yeah, aging is a process that's going to lower the levels of your hormones. That's normal. That's going to happen. You're never going to have the same hormone levels that you had when you were 20 years old. But we have the tools. We can make that decrease, or that steep on the curve, not that steep anymore. So we can, and that's what Dave Asprey is always doing. Like, he wants to live until 180. So we can control the levels of hormones. That's going to help us to lose weight. That's going to help us to stay healthy. That's going to help us to fight illnesses, which is right now is super important. And that's, I know that you are all onto that, and I'm right there with you. Well, but it's again, it's not ignorance. It's just that it's so much information out there that it's hard to decide which way to go. If I were on the other side right now and I were pro plant-based diet, I could find 100 studies there proving that plant-based is the best for you. But
them epidemiological and observational, not so many randomized controlled trials.
Yeah, but they can find that information and they will hold on to that information.
The average layperson doesn't know the difference between research. And so, well, I've got 100 studies that say, and not knowing that every one of those studies has a potential for flaw. Whereas we say we have 10 randomized controlled clinical trials that show what we say, but then, oh, well, they have 100 studies. You only have 10.
Yeah.
So, you know what I'm saying? So that's kind of that's why podcasts are so important, is you guys that watch my stuff and listen to me, you know, quality of research matters. In fact, in the back of Keto Clarity, we put a whole section in there just about how to read research papers and why it's important to not treat all research as equal. And it's something that, I mean, it's always going to be that education piece with the public, but I think the public's catching up. I think because of podcasts, because of the internet, because of the ability to search PubMed, we can look this stuff up ourselves. We don't rely on doctors, researchers public health officials on television to tell us what the research is anymore. We can go look it up ourselves.
Yeah, I see that change too. Like in close friends as well, that I never thought about them changing their minds about something. They started, okay, I'm open to discuss this and I'm open to hear this. And when you explain it that way, like you did, they can get it. Oh, okay. So I see, yeah, I have this information in here, but from where is that information coming from? Who paid that information, or how was that information put together? And then when you see the other side, and I always tell people, you don't believe me? Try it.
Yes.
Just give it a try. Start testing, get a baseline where you are right now. Pay really close attention of how you feel at this moment and start making changes and see how you feel. If you see improvements, then you are going in the right direction.
And don't just try it for 3 days. Well, that sucks. Do it for, I always tell people at least like 60 to 90 days. Because if at the end of 90 days, 3 months, you're not seeing anything from what you're doing, okay, maybe it's not right for you if you did it right. And so, yeah, I feel like so many people try it. They get a little bit of pain from whatever they're doing. Let's say they try to lift weights for the first time. Oh, that hurts too much. Yes, that's part of the process.
Yeah.
The delayed onset muscle soreness will go away eventually. Don't give up before you get started.
Yeah, and I had an argument, one of those online arguments a couple of days ago. So there was a plant-based post, and I put my opinion, like, okay, yeah, that might be working for some people, because some people were complaining about how the inflammation on their bodies and bloated they felt, and how tired, eczema, all the good stuff that comes with the plant-based diet, right? And I was telling, okay, well, I tried the keto diet, and it's been doing it for this long, and this is how it's been helping me. And I listed all the things that it changed, from the hormones to my mood, to my energy, to my physique as well. And then one of these ladies came back, well, it's working now, but wait to see what happens in the future. So they cannot even play the card of like it's affecting you because it's giving you results. But yeah, 10 years, well, we will not be talking 10 years from now, so we will never know.
Look, I'm in this for 17 years now. I've been doing this. I'm like, when am I supposed to have this heart attack?
Yeah, exactly.
When am I supposed to see the great health calamity? And yes, I still have weight on the body, and I'm working on that actively as we speak. But like all these dastardly predictions, it's just scaremongering people away from something that could be their answer. And quite frankly, if the plant-based people are the ones saying that, we could easily say, hey, let's look at you in 10 to 15 years and see how your B12 levels are, and see how your energy is, and see your bone density disappearing and your muscle wasting away. Sean Baker's all the time posting photos of these like vegan leaders, and they're just like decrepit because they have no bone structure. They have no muscle density. It's just, and they're white. Usually it's scary. And I try not to play that game. I don't get into that, but if they kind of pull the, well, you don't know in the future. Well, I kind of know in the future what your diet's doing.
Yeah, that is true. And well, again, they can't pinpoint it to anything. They can say, like, God forbid, but if I get a heart attack 10 years from now, they're going to blame on that. But do they really know what else I was doing? I was a smoker for so many years. I got to admit it. I'm not smoking anymore. I'm vaping. But maybe that's still killing me, right?
Yeah.
So how do you know, or how will they know that it was because of that? But they will do it. They will pinpoint it on the diet. It was a keto diet who kills you. And it's hard. It's hard to fight, man. It's hard to find when they don't try and they don't see it on themselves.
Look, they did that to Dr. Atkins. He did not die of his diet, and yet that notion is he died because he had a heart attack on the Atkins diet. And I'm like, no, he slipped and fell and busted his head open on an icy sidewalk in New York City. Like, what part of that do you not understand? And then, like, I remember interviewing Gary Taubes, or we were talking casually at one of the conferences, and he's like, Jimmy, you know, none of us are allowed to ever have a heart attack because they will blame it on the keto diet. Yeah. I'm like, I know.
Have you experienced the dreaded keto flu? Did you know that most of these symptoms are actually due to your body dumping excess electrolytes? This is where Element comes in. Element is a tasty electrolyte drink mix with everything you need and nothing you don't. That means lots of salt with no sugar. Element is formulated to help anyone with their electrolyte needs and is perfectly suited to folks following a keto, low-carb, or paleo diet. Element contains a science-backed electrolyte ratio, 1,000 milligrams of sodium, 200 milligrams potassium, and 60 milligrams of magnesium, with none of the junk, no sugar, no coloring, no artificial ingredients, no gluten, no fillers, no BS. Everyone needs electrolytes, especially those on low-carb diets, or if you practice intermittent or extended fasting, if you're physically active, or sweat a lot. Add Element today and see how much better you feel and perform. Use the URL drinklmnt.com/Jimmy.
That is true. So, well, going back to the hormones, I would say for people who wants to start, for people who really want to pay attention to that, and I think that's the same message that you're sending, Jimmy. You need to start tracking. You can change what you can measure, and the tools are out there. I know it sounds like science, like a really deep, dark science to measure your hormones, but it's available. Talk to your doctor and ask for that. If they can or they want. There's also options from private companies right now that are offering tests to measure your testosterone levels, cortisol, insulin. There is a bunch of tests available. Measure where you are. Start making slight changes one at a time. Some people will see that what I do right now on a daily basis, and they will think that it's too much. Yeah, it's too much because I got used to it. And now it's part of what my life looks like. But if you start adding incremental changes to your diet, incremental changes to your activity, then you can pile up, and those are like compound interest. It will give you benefits in the short term.
And it doesn't take much. That's the thing, Rafael. People think, oh, I've got to make a big diet change, a big change in my exercise routine, a big this, a big that. And no, it's incremental, can make such a difference. Like today, sleep is one of the things that I track with the Oura Ring. And so today I woke up around 3:30. I looked at my score. It was pretty good. I had pretty good, but I was like, no, I'm trying to optimize my body so that it will shed stored body fat and change body composition. Let me get a little more. And I made myself stay in bed for probably another hour, hour and a half. I don't remember exactly how much, but just that little bit extra from the time I woke up at 3:30 till I woke up at 5 or whatever it was so tremendous. I was like, whoa, I needed that little bit more. Now, how tempting would it have been to just get up, start my work, get everything going? I could have easily done it. My sleep score was pretty good, but I pushed myself to go a little bit more in. I invested that so that the rest of my day could benefit from that extra rest.
Now, you know what would have been amazing? That you can measure real time what your hormone levels were at that point.
Yes.
So can you pair that feeling you had with the level of cortisol you still had in the body, or how your insulin was working at that point? I really wish that we in the fitness community come up with more real-time measurement mechanisms.
It's coming. It's coming. I mean, the insulin one I've been asking for a decade. Ben Bigman, I had him on my show a few months ago, and I said, how close are we to something like that? He said, well, the technology is tricky because you got to have a way to spin the blood and to get the insulin reading. But he said, I could see it happening within about 10 to 15 years. I'm like, I hope sooner, but yeah, you're right. If we had kind of real time, but look, it's coming. But in the meantime, you just do the modalities that you know are supposed to put your hormones in that good state. It's easy to say, well, if I don't know what to do, which is kind of true. But if you have a baseline, you get insulin and thyroid and all the hormones run, and you kind of know where you stand, then work on it, go back and get the numbers run again, and you're going to see the difference. Yeah,
not just because you mentioned thyroid, right? So most people will get the thyroid test and they see a number, and if they see it in range, they say, well, I'm good.
Yeah.
So first of all, what's the range?
Yes.
So what is that range based off? Was that?
Sick people.
Yeah, exactly. So who normally get the test? People who have problems, they get the average of those, and that's your range right there. That's the first problem with it. But let's assume that's still not the problem. But the understanding of what the hormone is reading is what's next. All right, so if it's really low, what does that mean? Are you really low on thyroid, or are you not utilizing it well? Are the mechanisms for your body to utilize and convert that into what you need working properly or not? So it's not just reading the insulin, like, or the thyroid, sorry, but making the switch to the insulin side. If you measure and you have high insulin levels, we'll just stick with that reading and say, well, my insulin was high. Well, hold on. At what time do you measure that?
Yes.
What is your diet looking like? So there's a lot of factors that we need to tie it in. So that goes back to not just the tools to measure, but the information that we need. And podcasts, like you said, or video casts like yours, helps people to see that side. It's not, people will come at me and say, well, what's your cholesterol level? And then when I say that it's high on one of the spectrum, right? They will say, well, that's a problem. Well, hold on. What about this other level, the LDL, HDL? You need to know all of that. My triglycerides are really low. So I'm not worried about that anymore. And is my cholesterol prone to be oxidized or not? That could be a problem. So you have to measure a couple different things, understand the context of it. And one of the things that I always ask people, get your full lipid panel, get your inflammation markers, and know if you're actually at risk, because first, your cholesterol is off range and not in the range that they're talking about, on the real range that we know now, oxidation is a problem. And then, are you prone to oxidize? Is your body in conditions prone to oxidize that cholesterol? That's the second thing that you need to watch.
And look, related to hormonal health, you need cholesterol for your hormones to function properly. So you can't produce testosterone. You can't have good things happen in your body hormonally unless you have adequate levels of cholesterol. So if somebody's like, well, your cholesterol is high, I'm like, yeah, I know. I'm trying to make sure my hormones are balanced.
Yeah, correct.
Blows people's minds because we have such a negative stigma associated with cholesterol being high that people forget, oh yeah, it does good things. And here's one more counter to the cholesterol being high. Your body makes it. When you don't eat enough of it in your diet, vis-a-vis dietary cholesterol and saturated fat, it actually manufactures it internally. So why would the body manufacture something that's harmful for you if it's something you don't need? It wouldn't do that. The body's not stupid. The body knows you need that for the hormone conversion.
Yeah, we have forgotten to trust in our bodies. And we just, since we changed the diet so much and we now depend on so much processed food out there, we believe that new, based on the same thing that we're saying, the average that you're taking on the ranges for the values is the correct range where our values should be. And it's not that way. So let's look at the natural processes inside your body, like you said. If this is being produced in the body, okay, what's the reason of that? That gotta be a good reason. There's no toxins produced in our body by themselves. Our body doesn't do that. That comes from the exterior. So let's listen to the body. So it's not just feeling it, it's understanding and is embracing what we have and how that machinery is working in the inside. I have a friend, he contacted me because his cholesterol, the whole thing was a mess, right? So he sent me the results. And yes, his triglycerides were through the roof. And he was eating, for a little while, he told me, I'm doing keto. And I asked, okay, what type of keto are you doing? And literally he was eating fried wings every day from a chain. And then it was, okay, that's not keto. So he stopped doing that because it didn't work for him. So he went back to whatever he was doing before.
Wow.
And then finally asked me for advice. And I was like, okay, try this, and that. He went to the doctor, followed what I said, got a baseline. Went back 3 months later, his triglycerides normalized. His cholesterol got better. His HDL, LDL were in great range. And then the doctor told him, whatever you were doing helped you, but stop because you're eating too much fat. And that's going to be bad for you. And I asked him, okay, but did he say if he's showing something bad right now, somewhere, anywhere in your body? And he was like, no, he just said that it should be stopping. So to do what? To go back to what brought you here in the first place? Like, come on. Like, there's no way to win.
Probably the most frustrating thing when someone does keto and they see great changes in their health markers and weight. Then they go to the doctor. How did you do it? You tell them and they're like, oh, get off of that diet. It's dangerous. The way I respond to that is your doctor is a dumbass about diets. He has not been taught, and I don't mean that disrespectfully. They literally just don't know anything about nutrition. They're not taught that. And so I'm not going to ask my plumber how to fix my lawnmower. He may know how, but he's not trained in it. And same with your doctor. He's not trained, he or she is not trained in nutrition. So if they give you diet advice back, run.
People don't know that, what you're saying, but they only get, I think the average is 8 hours of nutrition through the entire school. So it's, you can get that in one day reading a book. Yeah.
Yeah. So guys, go check out Rafael Carrion. He is all lifts matter, all_lifts_matter over on Instagram. And he's just doing all kinds of things. He's definitely into fasting, as you heard about today, hormone balancing. And yeah, anything else you want to share? Do you have a website or anything, Rafael?
No, not at the moment. Like I said, I'm doing this for close people. I'm right now working on my side, writing a book and putting some stuff together, another business, selling some stuff. But I'm planning on going back to, like, once the book is completed, trying to go back to the public and as life gets a little bit easier, being able to share more of what I'm learning and learn more from people as well at the same time.
Well, you did it today here on my show, and I'm very grateful. Thank you so much for being.
Thank you, Jimmy. You have a good one.
Get inspiration from the Living La Vida Low Carb Show. Hey, the livinglowcarbshow.com. Woo!
Tired of playing the mask game? Me too. That's why I wanted to tell you about the Unmask. This is a breathable, completely breathable. It covers, you can't even see that it's breathable, but it's breathable. Whether you're going on a plane, having to go into a store and wearing this thing, playthemaskgame.com is how you can get this mask. They come in all kinds of colors and everything. In fact, right there, you can see right through it what it is, but when you're wearing it, it does not look like it's anything different, but it's breathable, baby. Playthemaskgame.com.